all of these great characters who had great heritage with Asian clubbing designed. We started with pieces of paper and a blank canvas, and then you grow, and then one outlet becomes 2 outlets, which is now 7, and by the end of the year, 9. Hey Zouk family, welcome back. Another week talking to another industry giant, and this is the biggest giant of the whole Zouk Group, our group CEO, Andrew Lee. And I would say the group for Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, but today we can announce, and this is an exclusive, that this now includes the continent of America because Zouk is going to Las Vegas, correct?
It is, Joe. It's an extremely exciting time for the Zouk Group. And I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
No, you were here all the way through the design and build of the Genting project. It's obviously, this is the first time we were ever in an integrated resort, but now we're going to talk about a brand new integrated resort, Resort World Las Vegas. And I think you know a lot more about it than I do. So tell us more about, wow, Zouk is going to go in with all the big guns in Las Vegas. That's a huge move.
It's a huge move, a lot of pressure, but we're trying our best. So yes, we're part of this project called Resorts of Las Vegas, which is going to be opposite the Wynn. It's probably going to be the first big opening in a resort in Las Vegas for a very, very long time. And the total cost of the project is $4.3 billion US, which is actually probably the most expensive project in Las Vegas. So Zouk is going to come in, and we're going to do about 110,000 square feet of space. And we have different concepts there. We're going to have a nightclub there, of course, Zouk nightclub. We're going to have a beach club there called IU. We're going to have Fuhu, which obviously you pioneered here, Joe, as well, with me and Huey. We're going to have a Red Tail, which also has been extremely successful here as well, and also an Asian food street. So all these concepts together are really going to make a huge mark on the Las Vegas scene.
Hey, well, congratulations. It's fantastic for all of us that wear the brand to know that we're going international. We've been the #1 club in Asia for 10 years plus. 30 years ago started in Singapore. 15 years ago started in KL, 2 years ago started in Malaysia, and now we're building up to Las Vegas. But tell me more about your personal journey with Zouk, because you're like me, we're uncles in this industry. We've been around for like 15 years, but you came into this family setup Zouk industry, which is basically what it is. It's like a family for all of us, but it's expanded so fast since you've taken over.
Yeah, and I think we have to thank the Genting Group for helping us that. I think when I first joined, actually, Genting Zouk wasn't. We hadn't acquired Zouk yet. So my first project was something called Beach Ship, which was like a mini It's a Ship, if some of you viewers know, where we actually converted one of the back kiddies pool to one on the cruise ships on the Superstar Virgo into what we thought a Las Vegas beach club. We had over 1,000 people go on the weekend in Hong Kong. They just party the nights off, and it was extremely successful. Towards the end of 2015, we had the acquisition of Zouk, and like you said, in this kind of 4 or 5 years, we've grown from just 4 outlets at the time to almost 17 now. And to be honest, once Vegas opens and the other expansions in Singapore and Malaysia, I can see that doubling again in the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, many people get excited to do like 1, 2, 3, 4 outlets, but you've grown 4-fold in what they're doing. Singapore has expanded not just in the nature of, you rebuilt the nightclub, correct? So it used to be in Jack Kim, and then you moved it and you started from scratch. So everything you've done has basically pioneered from brick up. So you've done the whole sphere of design, build, and I want to ask you, what was the experience like relaunching in Singapore, where it's an institution for 3 decades? And 2, how did you choose where made sense to go next from there? Because these are, people who have been with the brand for 30 years, nearly as long as we've been alive, will have seen this grand expansion.
We're a bit older than that, Joe. but yes, 30 years. And you're right. I think it was definitely a very delicate situation because, as you know, especially the Singaporean people extremely have a huge emotional attachment to Zouk, right? And Jack Kim is almost like a legendary location, right? It's got that warehouse, and people have just grown up with the brand for so many years. And actually to find that new place and also to bring that magic that Lincoln gave to that place for so many years to a new location was extremely difficult. I think in Singapore there aren't very many locations that could fit the size that we had. We managed to get that location at Clarke Quay that has served us extremely well, to be honest. And when we opened, we tried to bring parts of the magic, like we had the same speakers that we had in Jack Kim also kind of moved to Zouk with the same designer. Philip Connors helped design Zouk as well. So we wanted to kind of take parts of the Zouk tradition and history and magic and DNA and bring them, but also kind of take our knowledge of what we felt really worked in terms of the future, kind of future-proofing the concept. Like one of the things that we kind of brought was the combination of the rooms where Zouk and future could actually combine to a bigger room. Something that we also replicated here, here in Genting, Joe, as you know. But you asked me how we did it, and to be honest, it's really about the people. I mean, just speaking to you, I mean, you've opened, together with us such an amazing property here in Genting Highlands, with a very, very small team, and I can ask you the same question. How did it feel that when you came, I saw you on New Year's Eve when you're kind of waving the flag on the, the DJ, obviously the amount of pride and gratification of kind of opening this, it's unbelievable. And you can't get a kind of feeling of that, it's a very seldom feeling that you can get that kind of feeling.
You shouldn't admit this to an employer, but when I was lucky enough to be introduced to Andrew, 4 years ago now, and I knew I'd loved clubs forever, and I remember I went to my first super club Passion Ibiza well over 10 years ago, and when someone like Zouk comes and asks you, would you be interested, you just don't say no. It's like a no-brainer. You say yes, no matter what the terms are, you say yes. And you asked me, it was a monumentally proud moment because yourself, myself, Huey, and then Rex, Wayne, all of these great characters who had great heritage with Asian clubbing designed. We started with pieces of paper and a blank canvas, and then you grow, and then one outlet becomes 2 outlets, which is now 7, and by the end of the year 9. It's phenomenal, and I only see Zouk doing this kind of thing, and you've seen it expand, right? So you're a foodie. Tell me about the step from clubs into bars with Redtail, which preceded my time, and then tell me about the step into Fuhu, because you and Hugh are big foodies. And then also, there's Five Guys. So you've seen a transition that goes just from nightclubs into a lifestyle brand. So that was always part of the plan, I guess.
It was, and I think what we've realized as well is that nightlife is part of an ecosystem of lifestyle, right? I mean, I think you obviously people always have to club, but people also have to eat, right? And being able to kind of create that 360 degrees lifestyle of portfolio means that you can really create that customer journey and really elongate it, right? And everything that we bring into the group is all about experiences, as you know, and then we're calling the experience makers, right? So everything that we brought into the group, whether it's Redtail, whether it's Fuhu, whether it's Five Guys, is a completely different experience, but it does have that unique Zouk experience that we want you to go away having these kind of unforgettable memories, right? That we bring, and I think the more we do that, we even going further into the future that we're going to fitness, for example, right? And that's also part of the ecosystem because people can be fit, they can party, they can eat, and they can stay, in a Zouk hotel in the future as well, right? So once we be able to complement all these different concepts together, there really is a lot of synergy, and that's something that we want to kind of grow towards. So we don't see ourselves as a nightlife brand anymore. We're more of a lifestyle and hospitality group, right? And that is the future, and I think that's where we're going to go in the next 2-3 years, and we've taken massive steps in the last 1 or 2 years to get there as well.
And I think you touched on something. First of all, that's great. Thank you for sharing that with us, and congratulations on taking such huge steps, because a lot of people would have just rested on their laurels and said, okay, the club's doing well, let's just keep on with this and book DJs and people will come. But you quite rightly noted that people need to eat, and also behavioural patterns change. Once you get into your late 30s, your girlfriend/wife scolds you for going and buying champagne in a nightclub, and you have to take on other things. I want to talk to you about pivoting, because it's not just a movement into these new territories, but 6 months ago we were savaged by COVID, just like a lot of the hospitality industry. But Zouk, and quite excitingly, I want to focus on Zouk Singapore in this manner, have really converted the assets that you have incredibly smartly to move. I mean, you've got spinning coming up inside the main Zouk space, which makes a lot of sense with the AVL that you've got. I mean, it'll be 10 times better than any spinning studio I've ever been to. And then you turn Capital, the VIP club, into a dinery that's doing incredibly well. So how did that come about?
I think, to be honest, when COVID struck, it was a tough period for a lot of industries, right? I think it's the first time I feel that even Genting Group as a general had a global shutdown, right? I think this is really going to be a defining year for probably our lifetime. And it was very tough, I think our industry, nightlife and F&B, was really one of the first to shut down. And I believe we'll be one of the last to open, because we are everything about what COVID is against: social interaction, mass amount of people together. And when we did, everyone went to lockdown. It's very easy to kind of feel sorry for yourself. it's very easy to kind of, rail against the world and say, why is it us? It's so unfair. I'm just going to give up, right? But I think what's shown testament in terms of, the Zouk spirit, the Zouk Group in general, in Malaysia, Singapore, the seas, is that we will not give up, right? And we will learn to pivot, adapt, and overcome. And just also about the innovation that we've had, and rightly so, I'll talk about Singapore, but I also want to talk about, these series that we're talking about right now, the Zouk Digital series, right? Joe, when did this, this started as almost like nothing. We had this live streaming kind of nightlife kind of DJ that we did with Razor right at the beginning, but slowly it morphed into a huge kind of project where now you have like hundreds and hundreds of videos, right? And your database is growing, and it's you have so many different facets of online content now that you would not believe that that we could have done this, right? And that's something that you've also helped to grow, which is extremely like, exciting.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the guys who are hiding behind the cameras are the ones that are working hard and doing it. And I think you say one thing that I'm very proud about working for Zouk for is, as I said at the beginning, it's like a family, and everyone clubs together, and no one turns around and says no or feel sorry. They just say, how can I help? And that comes across the entire group. And it's something that we're lucky. We work closely with Singapore, Zouk at Sea in Hong Kong, Ron, everyone knows from Vegas. It's like one big team together. Moving on to something slightly different, Five Guys Burger. Obviously, monumental excitement here in Malaysia. My Burger Lab posted a photo of our hoarding here in Resorts World Genting, and it got 1,000 likes and almost 1,000 comments. You've launched with massive success, and I don't think it's out of turn to say that one of, if not the best performing Five Guys in the world, correct?
Correct. So I guess the strategy behind that was really, I think, the Genting Huey actually. We wanted to get Shake Shack at the beginning, but actually we're glad that we did Five Guys. And actually at the time, Five Guys had just opened their first venue in Hong Kong. And, I personally love burgers, right? And I went there and I tried the burger and I said, wow, this could really do well in Asia, right? Especially in where we have assets in Singapore, Malaysia. So after actually, we had to pitch them almost like 5 or 6 times. But when we finally managed to get it, and we opened up in Singapore, it was with like wild reviews. We sold 1,300 burgers on the first day. And we are, like you said, one of the best performing outlets in Singapore. Sorry, in Singapore, in the world. And I can't wait, to show, to have Five Guys here open in Genting. I think it's going to do just as well. It's just actually, because since you're really in the thick and thin of us opening Five Guys, you can understand that the produce, the meat, the fries, the protocol they do to everything is almost like science. They've literally taken the perfect chip and just revolutionized it through these decades of experience to the point now where it's like it's still using human kind of like intuition, but it's almost a science that how they got to this point, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so good, because the quality of the produce and everything is just there. I mean, there's no timers. The meat there gets fried by human interaction and stuff, and you just you can't have that experience like anywhere else in any kind of burger restaurant. But Joe, just to kind of go back a little bit and talk about the pivots, I thought you did ask me that, and I will talk about how that came about. I think for us, we felt that restaurants was always going to open first before nightlife. It's a much bigger industry in Singapore, and when we looked at it, people have to eat, right? And what we did is we extended the Red Tail kitchen license into Capital Kitchen, right? And we've had rave reviews since the moment we opened. We've actually been fully booked, pretty much every night. And then it's also, we have this amazing space, right? In Singapore, and thinking to yourself, what could we use that to kind of complement everything else that we have. So two of the other pivots that we did is actually partnering with this group called Absolute to actually make it into a spinning studio. And actually that came about because you realize that, working together with partners is always going to be better than you're doing it yourself. And they had a need as well, because during the time they had all their bikes packed into small studios where you had to be like, they could be packed, neck to neck. And due to the situation now, they have to have it kind of, 1 or 2 meters apart, which means that you can have much less, people on the bikes and then in studio, right? So they had a huge surplus of people on waiting lists, right? So why not better to kind of complement that with our Zouk Club, where we have a huge space, right? You can have the social distancing inside, but also be able to kind of fit the amount of people they want to have that atmosphere. Because obviously, having 10 people inside a studio, a small studio, is not the same as having 50 people inside in a raving kind of club atmosphere, right? So, the feedback when we launched that has been absolutely insane. Like, I think we're going to be fully booked at the moment, and we're doing 7-day week business. The other idea that we kind of came up with was also, making Zouk into a cinema, right? And I think that's also going to be extremely exciting because we can have people in kind of groups of 3 and 5, and they come down, they have their bespoke popcorn, they can have their cocktails, and then watch these kind of like old school movies, right? That you love, like Rambo. You can have a Rambo night, you can have a Bridget Jones Diary night, and have your girlfriends together and stuff. And I think in this time when the industries aren't really open up, I think it's giving a different experience. So I guess like the Zouk experience, which is something different as well, but it can complement each other, And I'm extremely excited. I think for us, our group itself has always been a front runner in anything that we've done, right? Either it's the first piece that came out, to showcase music. It's the first mover in different aspects, and I think this COVID situation has shown that the group itself can pivot, can adapt, and we will survive this period and we'll come out even stronger.
Hey, congratulations, that's phenomenal, and it's very inspirational for everyone who's watching it, because there are people who would have stood still, and the mere factor that you can use Zouk for many of your allowed social activities is phenomenal, because you can visit multiple times a week. I also love the interactivity that you can have, where you can go spinning, then afterwards you go upstairs to Capital Kitchen. I like, from my own personal level, that I can go and enjoy a Five Guys and I can burn it off in the spinning studio as well. And this will bring me on to a more personal slant towards you. So everyone always asks me, like, Joe, how do you last 15 years in nightlife? And people don't realize, because I'm looking forward, that, you lose your hair, you get bags under your eyes and everything else. But you also live a very healthy life. You're a triathlete, an Ironman, no less. So tell me more about what motivates you. And also, this is an exclusive for Zouk Digital, that Angelou makes the most famous spaghetti bolognese in the whole of Singapore, maybe even Southeast Asia. And it's been in demand by nearly everyone that works for Zouk, that he would bring it into the office to trial it. And he's done dinner parties and showcased this. And I believe you've even cooked at Capital Kitchen, if that's correct.
Yes, I contributed a dish. It's called Lisky Aglio. It's a prawn aglio. It's actually been one of the best sellers, actually, since we started. So I'm quite proud about that. It was a secret recipe. It's not a secret recipe anymore. But yeah, I love cooking, and Joe, I know you have an extremely sweet tooth, right? I think I just crave food in general. I love food, which is why, even though I'm a triathlete, I don't have a 6-pack. And that's also exclusive as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of takeaways in endurance sports. And actually, my brothers were the ones who actually got me into the sport itself. And it's, I'm an Ironman 70.3, so I'm not a full Ironman, but it's about 70.3 miles, 113 kilometer race, where you swim, 1.9 kilometers, and then you cycle 90 kilometers, and then you run 21 kilometers. And I think especially for us, and Joe, like you said, we've been in 15 years in the industry, discipline is extremely, extremely important, right? And so how you can bring discipline from your personal life and also into your work life is also there's a lot of synergy there as well, right? So the fact that I can wake up in the morning, exercise for an hour, and then meditate and then kind of go to my work, it all kind of synergizes in what I feel my work-life balance should be, right? And there's a lot of life learnings as well when you do endurance sport. You go through, and there's times you exercise for almost like 5 to 6 hours in the burning heat. There's a lot of times you want to give up, right? And I think you can take that, mentality and mental fortitude and basically bring it on to, your work as well. I think that's also helped me a lot during this time in COVID, because there are definitely, like I said, times when we wanted to give up, but you can understand that you just have to keep on going, right? You just take one step. And if you try like 10 different things and 9 don't work and 1 does, that's still going to be a success in my books, right? So, food itself, it's also like the fact that I can exercise so I can eat more. I think that's also extremely important. I love spaghetti bolognese. It's basically my comfort food. I used to cook it when my brothers were very young, and basically we'd just cook it all together. And it was a family bonding. I think for me, food itself is something that brings people together. Similar to nightlife, and it's always had that kind of nostalgic kind of feel to me. So even when I've had a really, really bad day, I will come back, cook a spaghetti bolognese and then have like a massive soft cookie with some ice cream. And it just makes everything so much better. I feel a lot guiltier, definitely in terms of like how much calories, but my mental state is great, and I think all these kind of ways to kind of get past that, this kind of quite tough time is you need to have kind of releases.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and it will build me onto a question that I ask absolutely everyone that I talk to shortly. But at least now you can go spinning to get rid of the guilt, so you don't have a problem. I ask every single person I speak to, because we're very much a millennial brand. I mean, we have followers of all different ages because people have been going to Zouk for 30 years, but we have a lot of aspirational millennials who have graduated, even Gen Z, and people who have graduated now will be potentially very nervous because the world has changed and what am I going to do with my life and what can I do? And you've obviously tasted huge success, and I think one thing I would say is it's definitely not easy and it's very stressful, and sometimes I don't know where you are in the world because you're on a plane, which sounds really glamorous, but you told me once that you only stayed in your own bed for something like 2 nights out of 30 once because you were going Vegas, Hong Kong, here. But now I feel that you, apart from the fact that you run a global company that is now across 2 major continents, what would be your advice to someone who's starting out, who says, look, I see what Andrew's achieved. He's opened 3 super clubs, put restaurants, bars and clubs on cruise ships. He's completed Ironman. But what's your advice to get people to say they can also live their dream?
I mean, Joe, I think like yourself, my first job was, nothing spectacular, right? My first job, almost 17 years ago was a room service waiter for 3 years in a hotel in London. And, basically that meant being the person carrying that tray of food, 100 times a day, and serving breakfast to the guests in the hotel, right? After that I was opening doors for like another year, and then after that I was, doing housekeeping, so I was cleaning rooms for another 3 years, right? So I think at the end of the day, I think it's knowing that you need to be passionate about what you do, knowing that you have to have the patience to be in a go-ahead, and knowing not to give up. Because I think one of the things that, and to be honest, like I can tell you now, like it's 12 years ago, I was not doing any of this stuff. I was, I was working for a big hotel chain, but I was really in the low rungs, right? And I think right time, right place, definitely. But it's just having that need to kind of really try to change things as well, And I think I've just also been very lucky, Joe. I think in some ways, I think we're all very lucky to be at the place where we are. I think we can't discount the luck factor as well. But the fact is that it's also surrounding yourself by the best people, and I've been very lucky to kind of work with some of the best people that have including yourself and what you've done here as well. It's been absolutely amazing, right? And I would never, the group would never be where it is unless we had people like yourself and Wade and Alex and Huey and everyone's support. It's really that, and it's never that one person that kind of contributes everything, right? Just because I'm the one here speaking on the mic, or the one, the face, there are countless people behind me who are the ones that are actually making the things happen, right? It's very easy for me to come up with strategy, but the people who actually execute it in the day are really the real heroes behind the scene. So yes, it is, I used to think it would be very glamorous to be on a, flying all over the place, and to be honest, and nowadays I just want to be back with my dog Toro. I mean, she's every day I've got a camera, I'm watching her, and I'm like trying to talk to her through the camera and stuff, and she's like thinking it's a ghost, I don't know, but it's heartwarming just to kind of be back, and have a base and stuff. And last year I stayed in a hotel 100 nights out of 365, right? So it may, like I said, may sound glamorous, right? But it's not easy, right? And as you know, right, there's always needs to be sacrifices to be made to get to where we are. But for all the kind of millennials and Gen Zs and people starting off, just don't give up. I think at the end of the day, I mean, things will, there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're really through a very difficult period of time right now. Mental resilience is definitely very important, where everyone's being taken outside their comfort zone, and we're not used to what life is like right now. But, I think things will come back to normal sooner or later. but we just have to be patient, and we just need to be ready when time comes, because when it comes back, it's going to come out like a tidal wave.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think that's really solid advice, and especially for you to reveal to us the humble beginnings of, I remember you telling me how exhausting it is to go around and change sheets, and it also gives you an appreciation for what other people do, because you see what people do day in, day out, and even though there is a glitz and a glamour to nightlife, I've seen it when you're there late at night and then you've got board meetings first thing in the morning, or you have to fly and you have to build around people's schedules nonstop. It's exhausting. And I went to Vegas with yourself. It was like hugely enlightening, and the first time I ever went, and I was greatly appreciative to go with you guys. But it was literally 3 days. We 1 whole day to travel there, 1 whole day to travel back, and you're there for 3 days, and we're basically there delivering financial pitches, and it's not how it looks.
No, and especially in social media, I can tell you now, you take a photo of like the Vegas skyline, they think we're there partying, but it's really not that. They're like, wow, you're in Vegas for like 1 night, and I'm like, yes, but it took us like 40 hours to travel here, and it's going to take us 40 hours to travel back, and we're literally, like you said, we're like 8 hours in the boardroom, but I'm not going to take a photo of our financial meeting and send it to you on the social media. So I think we're in an extremely like also different, weird time as well, where with technology and everything, like things can seem very different from what they seem inside, right? Whether that's good or not, I guess that's another discussion we can talk about, which will take us very long. But yeah, I think like you said, it's grass is always green on the side. But I don't regret anything that we do, Joe. I think at the end of the day, like you said, it's we're here and we're making an impact on people's lives, and there's nothing more gratifying and impactful than the fact that you can change people's memories, because that's basically what we're made of, right? I mean, when you think to yourself, like, what are our human personas and psyches? They're basically a collection of memories and experiences that we had through our lives, right? And that's what we're doing, which is why I love it when you also tell me about some of the stories when people kind of propose in Red Tail, when I've we've got the Mambo King in Singapore who's got a tattoo of Mambo and stuff. It's just like we've impacted these people in such positive ways. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah, you're right. I got into this game because I remember standing there and watching 600 people in China White all sing along to the same song, and I thought, even if they've been dumped, or even if they've been fired, or even if they had a rubbish week, they forget their problems for just 3 hours. And I remember the first time I went to Zouk, which ironically was a Mambo Jumbo, and I stood in the DJ booth next to Wayne, the GM of Zouk Singapore, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I was seeing 1,000 Singaporeans at their happiest, genuinely at their happiest. And I just thought, wow, this is something special. And I texted all my friends back home in London. I was like, you can't believe what I've just seen. You cannot believe what I've just seen. It's an institution. And something like 12,000 Singaporeans watched the Mambo King on Zouk Digital do his thing. It's like, blows my mind. Another really touching point that I think everyone will appreciate is the fact that you attributed it to the greater picture. We've got Alex, CFO. We've got Carolyn in Singapore, who's like a COO. We've got Wayne, GM. We've got Arun, who's been with the Singapore side on operations for nearly as long as it's been around. You've got Rex, 17 years, 17 Zouk Out festivals. Here we've got Alex, Navin, May, Wenyi, all of this team that work endlessly to make this stuff happen. And then we have arguably the most famous of all of our colleagues, which is Toro. and your poodle has her own IG.
Yes.
And her own videos.
Yes. Just also, in my defense, that's not handled by myself.
That's not true.
It's handled by the COO, Carol, my PA. And I don't put like heart figures, and I don't have enough time to have like rotating videos of Toro like every day, unfortunately. But yeah, she's a love of my life right now, to be honest. I think we spent lockdown together in Singapore, so we bonded incredibly. Over toilet training. She did a poo on my bed pretty much every night. But yeah, it was I love her to bits, and one of the things is just having a dog in itself has been such a rewarding experience, because for me, I think what you give in is what you get back, and if you give in a lot of love, I think you get so much love back from. But yeah, we actually did a dish in Capital Kitchen based on Toro. So it's called Liski Lee's Toro Tataki. It's basically a tuna dish. So that's debuted in Capital Kitchen last weekend. So please follow her. Carol wants to have more followers than me. So please follow Toro. We'll
post this up right now. So we have a swipe up to follow. So it'll be a guaranteed.
_ pushy.
So before we go, first of all, huge thank you for taking the time, especially to tell us about Las Vegas, because that's monumentally exciting. We've got a video coming up straight afterwards, which is the official announcement, and we cannot wait to see what you and Ron will be bringing to life. We've been loving talking to Ron for 7 months. Ron is one of the most intelligent, yet one of the most humble people I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and to see him bring all of his experiences with the Kaigos and the Chainsmokers and the Cardi B's to life will be something to behold. Congratulations on all the success over the last 5 long years. But you've gone from one club, one city to, as you say, 30 plus outlets, 4 major cities, 4 countries, 2 continents, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop.
No, we're kind of like a roller coaster now, and I really feel that we're at that stage where I think we're going to grow exponentially, to be honest. And Vegas really is that is a big turning point for us as well. It's going to be great. I mean, Ron is, to be honest, he's amazing. He's I think what I have to reiterate is that we're not bringing we're trying to bring the best people as well from the Vegas scene, because we don't feel we're experts in the field like globally, right? So we're going to try to once again bring the best people locally, but also kind of bring our expertise from abroad as well. And I think once it opens, I think it's I'd love to show viewers around and stuff. It's gonna be really great. But once again, I can't reiterate this congratulations is not for myself. It's really for the whole team. We're one family, we're one tribe, and everyone has kind of taken put a part into play to get to where we are today. And just because I'm the one who's the face of the group means that it doesn't mean anything, right? It basically means that I'm just the one taking the interviews, but really the ones who are actually doing the hard work behind the scene are the ones really, like you said, behind the cameras, in the offices, the ones serving the guests. These are the true heroes, the unsung heroes that those congratulations are for. And
on a personal level, because I get the pleasure of doing these interviews, it's a thank you for me, because gave me a chance to live my dream. I always wanted to open a super club, and it's been a roller coaster, and it's been like a journey of a very few people. It's like yourself and Huey, and then we expand into the greater team. But Zouk is literally not just an experience maker for the clientele, but for the people who work there as well. There's people, we've forged memories. Some of my favorites are behind us right now, the Ben Nickies, the Ferry Corstons, the Marcus Schultz, the Rehabs, and so on and so forth. And that's thanks to what I would say is very selfless leadership, when you give us a chance to run and create these memories for people. And then my last thing would be that I've just listed some of my favorite memories that exist here, the proposals at Red Tail, the thousands of games of Giant Pong, the launches, the DJs. But what are your favorite Zouk memories?
So I think we've also got a music festival under our brand, Zouk Out, right? And I remember when I was with Huey one time, and it's actually one of the only from music festivals that actually can go into the morning, right? Especially in Singapore, which I think is an amazing feat. They actually have it on the beach as well. So I remember actually being 6 a.m. and just seeing the light coming out from the ocean, and looking around and seeing 15,000 people kind of dancing on the beach. For me, was like, wow, this is why we're here. This community, this tribe is something so strong. You just felt this euphoria of excitement and awe, of what we're doing, and there wasn't another experience in the world. It was just the music, everything was just perfect, right? And I think that's when I felt like this is why we're here. We want to give more of these experiences, these memories to people. And I always used to kind of like, after we do these events, I would like look through like the Instagram posts and just see people, their friends together, just going, wow, like we helped do that, right? The other thing that Joe hasn't said is that I'm an awesome dancer, and whereas he's a DJ, I'm a dancer. One of my favorite nights that I helped program was Total Recall. So Total Recall is like the newer mambo, right? So whereas mambo is kind of like 80s and 90s music, or 70s and 80s music, Total Recall is like 90s and 2000s. So it's your Britney Spears, it's your Backstreet Boys, your NSYNC, and this is the kind of music that I grew up with, in my kind of teens, right? So you can probably calculate my age from that. But yeah, I love it. It's I love kind of dancing to these boy bands. My actually nickname at university is Boy Bandy. And Huey's nickname for me is BSB, Backstreet Boy. So yeah, I love dancing, and for me, like, I know when people come to that type of music, they're probably around the same age as me as well, right? So I love singing, I love dancing that songs, and every night I go, it's going to be great memories, I know, for that night.
Phenomenal. It's great to relax and unwind and the ability to, I would say love for yourself, but he's been very serious. He would love to be in a boy band.
I would love to.
He would have swapped this whole Zouk career to be in a boy band. To be in Five from the UK.
I was actually in the university boy band. Yeah, it was as in like we did songs from like Backstreet Boys, but I can show you photos if you click on this. No. No. In all honesty, I don't know what to say to that, to be honest. I don't know how to end on that.
So it's funny he says that, because I don't know if I ever shared this with Andrew, but so when I had my interview with Zouk, it was the weekend of the grand launch of Zouk Singapore, and he'd booked Diplo to play. And I got dropped off my first ever time in Clark Quay, and I got out my taxi, and as I was walking down, and someone shouted out, "Diplo's arrived!" And that was as close as I got to being a celebrity.
Hey, you're Calvin Harris, no? Calvin Harris.
But Andrew, thanks so much for your time. It's great to have you in Malaysia. Going through, travel's been impossible. It's fantastic to reconnect, and also, more importantly, fantastic that the brand just keeps going. Vegas is a monumentally exciting. The next chat we have will hopefully be after the grand launch. We can see some videos of what it's all about. When do we expect it?
So we're looking around Q2 to Q3 of next year. I think obviously with the way this pandemic is right now, it's quite hard to kind of predict an exact definite date, but I do believe that we will be open by the third quarter of next year.
So a Zouk, an Empire, an Ayu, a Fuhu, a Red Tail?
Correct, and Asian Food Street.
Asian Food Street. So much to look forward to. We will definitely return to this before Q2 next year. Hopefully we'll draw Ron into this at the same time and get some secrets that no one else will find out about. And Andrew, thanks again.
Thank you, Joe.
They are all kind of vintage sounds that producers love to use these days.